only did we get the Chucky season 1 finale tonight, but we also found out that we're officially getting a season 2. So we're getting season 2 next year sometime, probably around the same time of year would be my guess. So it's a pretty good day to be a Chucky fan. So I'm going to talk at the end of the review about what I think season 2 might involve. But for now, let's talk about season 1. So I'm going to talk about episodes 7 and 8 because I was sick last week, so I couldn't get to my review. So I'm going to do a quick recap of episode 7 and then go into the finale. But if you want to skip straight to me talking about the finale, then I'll put a timestamp down below. So we see at Junior's mum's funeral, Tiffany comes up to Junior's dad and kisses him in the most awkward kiss ever. And then we see Junior, and he's definitely not happy about this. And I think this is probably an idea that Chucky had to get Tiffany to come up and kiss Junior's dad as a way to start even more drama between them, to get Junior to think that his dad was cheating on his mum, and that way he can further get him to step into the role that he wants him to step into of being a killer, which, as we know now, he eventually does succeed at doing. So basically, we see that Chucky, he has some serious mummy issues, am I right? I mean, he kills so many mums in this show, and he had just killed Devon's mum in the previous episode. So Devon is after revenge, so he goes to Charles Lee Ray's house in an attempt to burn it down. But he finds a hostage there, he finds Nika, but what he doesn't know is it's actually Chucky in Nika's body. So basically he gets kidnapped as he's trying to save her. Great rescue attempt there, Devon. Anyway, so I just feel so sorry for Nika. I mean, even before she left her mother's womb, Chucky has been completely messing up her life. I mean, he's the one that stabbed her mother while she was pregnant, so she came out born with the disability that she had. And then he possesses her, and then he introduces Tiffany to her, and obviously we'll get to that a little bit later on, but we find out Tiffany just does some really messed up stuff to her and just becomes absolutely obsessed with her, as Tiffany tends to do. And yeah, you feel really sorry for Nika. And the actress that plays her, Fiona Dourif, just did such a great job in this episode, especially, of just conveying her father. Like, she just embodied her father in this episode. So anyway, we see Jake finally snaps and he kills his father. And there's been so many things that Chucky has just been trying to do to manipulate this poor kid into doing what he wanted him to do. And we never really see Jake find out that he's been manipulated because, spoiler alert for episode 8, he ends up dead. So yeah, like, that's sort of good for him because he never has to have that moment, because you feel so sorry for the kid already. Even though he killed somebody, he just feels like he's been a victim that just finally snapped, and he was never going to turn into what Chucky wanted him to be, which is just a cold-hearted, remorseless killer like he is. You know, I always knew that he would stop after his father. He wouldn't kill anybody else, even though Chucky repeatedly tries to get him to. But yeah, I just feel like it would have been interesting to see him actually completely snap, like, even further, and just go off the deep end and really become like Chucky, because I feel like there's certain areas with this show where it held itself back. It kept trying to, like, not go too far, and it would have almost benefited from completely just going all in. I mean, this is a show that's already pretty crazy and over the top. Why not just go all in and have him turn into a remorseless killer? Because I feel like all of the kids sort of got redeemed, like Lexi. Jake didn't do it, you know, Devon was a good guy. They were all pretty moral and good people, so to have Jake be the one that was, you know, the bad egg would have been really interesting. So at the beginning of episode 8, we have Andy turning up to Junior's house. So he's looking for the Chucky doll, and he says to Junior, if you see that doll, stay away from it. And I'm just thinking, okay, so let's just say that Junior had no idea that the Chucky doll was alive and evil. There's this full-grown man walking into his house telling him to stay away from a doll. Like, he would have thought that Andy was completely insane, right? Anyway, so we have Kyle in this episode. So she and Andy are separate for this episode. After he ditches her, she sort of goes and does her own thing by the looks of it. So anyway, she turns up as Chucky is doing this "Here's Johnny" sort of moment.
Here's Johnny!
The "Here's Chucky" moment, and she ends up killing him. Well, that version of the Chucky doll anyway. And yeah, she reveals a really interesting thing, which is that Chucky, so his plan is to build an army of Chucky dolls, and to build the army of Chucky dolls, he needs to corrupt an innocent soul. So in this episode, Tiffany and Chucky are continuing to have a lot of problems in their relationship, and instead of communicating, they do what they do best. They try to kill each other. So Chucky, one of the Chucky dolls tries to kill her, and then one of the other Chucky dolls saves her. This is sort of a weird storyline in some ways, because there's so many Chucky dolls that it gets a little like, what? This story gets a little crazy, but it is a story about a killer doll, so what do you expect, I guess? So anyway, one of the things that annoyed me, like I said, where this show sort of felt like it was holding itself back, is that we see the army of Chucky dolls eventually, and Chucky is sort of giving them instructions, and he says don't kill any kids under 6 years old, and it just feels so out of character, because this is a guy that tried to kill Andy when he was around that age, and he stabbed a pregnant woman in her belly. You don't stab a pregnant woman in her belly and then have morals, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't really fit, and it felt like the writers were sort of trying to tone him down a bit, and you just can't erase history. Anyway, so talking about people going too far, we see Chucky, and he's still trying to corrupt Junior even further, and he's getting him to try to first kill Nika, and then Devon, and then Lexi, and every single time he's just not doing what Chucky wants him to do, because like I said, I knew he wouldn't go full villain, and I feel like Chucky needed him to do that for some reason, for the voodoo spell to fully take effect and the army to, I don't know, come to life fully or something. But anyway, it seems like they've come to life either way, because at the end of the episode we see them in the truck and they're off to get distributed to all the children of America. One thing that I thought was really interesting is when Tiffany and Chucky are fighting, Tiffany reveals that she was actually the one to call the police on him. As we see in the beginning of the original Child's Play movie, he's on the run from the police, and it's really interesting to have that added layer of the story being told now. That she was just fed up of getting neglected, even back then, and yet she still stuck around all of this time, even though he's a doll now, and he still is neglecting her, and it's just like, you feel sort of sorry for Tiffany in a way, because it feels like she has some serious Stockholm syndrome, you know, but then she is a sadistic serial killer herself, so you don't really feel too sorry for her. Anyway, they also reference Glenda in this episode very briefly, and it sort of felt like they were just throwing a bone to the audience, because like me, I was one of those people that kept saying, what about Glenn and Glenda? So they say Glenda bought the suitcase for Tiffany. She had a suitcase full of explosives, and so Glenda is being acknowledged, like she's acknowledged to be out there in the universe somewhere. So it would be really interesting if she comes back in season 2 and maybe helps her mum, teams up with Tiffany to take down her dad, because I can't really see Chucky being the best dad, being the best father figure, considering all his issues with parents. So anyway, we see, talking about parents, we see Lexi's dad. He ends up dying in this really interesting scene where they're in a movie theater watching Frankenstein, and Chucky is just coming up under the seats and stabbing everybody, and he's having such a great time doing it. And then we see him and Junior. I always get them mixed up. It's the J's. Anyway, so Junior and Chucky have a bit of a showdown, and they both end up dying. So yeah, it's sad really that Junior's storyline ended up like that, but really I guess going forward he would have gone to prison, so his character would have been out of the show anyway. So Jake finally gets his moment and kills Chucky, well, one of the Chucky dolls anyway. And then the army of Chucky dolls ends up leaving in the truck, and Andy intervenes, and then Tiffany the doll intervenes again and holds him up, so it's sort of left on a cliffhanger what happens there. And then we see Tiffany in a flashback, I guess, back before she left to send off the army of Chucky dolls in the truck. She had taken off Nika's arms and legs in a really disturbing scene. So basically it reminded me of this really creepy movie called Boxing Helena, and so basically like the guy in that wanted this woman all to himself, so he cut off her arms and legs so she couldn't leave him. And it feels like that was what Tiffany was doing to Nika, and yeah, that is going to give me nightmares. Anyway, so as far as season 2, we never actually saw Kyle's body, so we don't know for sure that she's dead, because there could have been victims there stored in the house, so when the house burnt down, the corpses were actually of Chucky's victims, not of Kyle's, so who knows? And we see at the end of the episode a black leather glove on the tree when Lexi and Devin and Jake are at the, where are they? They're at the graveyard, and we see someone watching them, and we know that Kyle wears a lot of black leather, so it's probably her. And I think we're going to see her and Andy continue to hunt down the dolls, because I feel like they'll get spread out across America and chaos will happen. And yeah, I think season 2 is something I'm definitely excited for. I think this story definitely has more juice in it, you know, it has more to tell. So let me know in the comments down below what you want to see happen in season 2. Did you enjoy this season? I'd really like to know what your favourite part of it was. And if you want to see more reviews from me and more videos in general, sometimes I do trailer reactions and stuff like that, please consider subscribing or just giving this video a like. Thanks guys.